So let's start with the book. I love this chapter. This is as good as the chapter before it, where it talks about, doing that, the messaging that is so important to you. But then my takeaways, and we'll start with you, Jessica, in a second, but what my takeaway was like, well, we could really improve our training platform when it comes to this, because just some of the simple, it's simple. That what I love is that simple process that he laid out for making those calls and just getting right to the point. Having listened to lots of calls, the mistake that we've made in our training that we're not going to make anymore when we train new people is like, we're going to train you on how to have these conversations, and you're going to get that conversation down so that you can start getting appointments right away, instead of, and I think back to some of the calls that I've listened to where the loan officer is like, so did I get you to a good time? How are you doing? And like asking all these questions, you've interrupted somebody and they fucking hate it. And the advantage of just getting right to the point. The reason I'm calling is I want to set an appointment with you, and so anyway, that's what I liked about it. Jessica, go ahead.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought the transparency thing is really important, just being open and upfront. And the more I do that, the more I'm just like clear on what I want from them and who I am and what I'm going to talk about at our meeting. Like, I'm going to tell you how we're different, and I'm not going to waste your time. So, but then I also really liked the message matters part, where you talk about peace of mind. That's a huge selling point that I always say. It's a low stress mortgage. I know it's hard to believe, but that's what I'm working on. That's what I specialize in. And I'm going to teach you how I do that. So, and then also stress, and just using some of those words like waste and time and money in your pitch is super helpful, because they respond better, I think.
Right on. That's great. Giuseppe.
Yeah, great chapter. I'm surprised I've ever gotten any meetings, because I asked. Yeah, I just wrote down a few notes, 5 steps, no gaps in that initial outbound message. No asking them how they are, no long-winded voicemails with too much detail, and eat the frog. Those were my takeaway points. Yeah, I need a lot of work in that area.
Well, it's like I said, we've never done, I first to admit, like going, man, I've never taken this to that level, and we could make this a lot easier for a lot of people. So that was I feel the same way. Dennis, what do you got?
Definitely similar. The talking straight through part is it's super unnatural for me, and I'm very much well, gee whiz, how's it going? How are you? What's going on in your life? So I've 100% need to change that.
I think about some of the things I've heard on the recordings, like, so how you doing with this crazy market? Like, yeah. Fuck it, dude, is that why you called me? Right.
Yeah. And I always go back to the boiler room scene where what's his name sitting at his kitchen table, and he gets a phone call from the guy, and he takes a pitch. He goes, no, I'm not buying, but much better pitch this time. So the framework was sort of helps me a lot. And then just remembering to flow through it, working on my dialogue and my message, the bridge, obviously figuring out, the audience, what that bridge is going to be and that message. We don't like to say value prop, but what is going to differentiate us from the other 14 people that have called that person today, particularly in the realtor world. And just trying to find whatever piece of 6 degrees of separation we can connect. So,
well, that's excellent. Dean, right?
Well, one of the things I like about Jeb Blount's book, not just this chapter, is the structure behind it. Like, he really lays out a great framework. I think one of the powerful things in this chapter is scheduling a call block. Is you just got to structure it, schedule it, know what you want out of it, and avoid all distractions. I think that's such a powerful tool in telephone prospecting. Also love his quote of nobody answers a phone that doesn't ring.
Right. I love the 1 hour focused time where maybe you prep for an hour and a half with, who am I calling? Who's on the list? I'm getting ready to do it. It's all scheduled. And then I block everything out. I just think about, the compound effect of calling for an hour, even if you did it twice a week for a year, that's 200 hours worth of calls that you'd make, 200 hours worth of calls. And just think about what the compound effect of that is. And that's if you only did it twice a week for an hour. Right. So I just think that's really powerful. That's what we've got to focus on when we do this training going forward. Chris Hauber, what do you got?
Yeah, I thought the most profound part was what Dean just said, where nobody answers the phone that doesn't ring. I mean, it's pretty simple, but if you don't make a call, like none of it really matters. So, but I probably could, I don't know. I like longer voicemails because I'm trying to be efficient. I mean, depend if it's prospecting, no, but if I'm like calling a client, like, hey, I'm leaving you a long voicemail, so like, don't call me back. Here's all the information you need. But yeah, when it comes to prospecting, I could probably shorten my voicemails a little bit. I just try to be super detailed.
Well, when you realize there's 3 reasons to make these calls, right? So you're trying to either set an appointment, gather more information, or do some research. I can't remember what, I think those are, and I don't think that we've done a good job of sectioning off, like, what is it exactly that you're talking about? And when you think about making a call to a realtor versus a client, the call to the realtor is just like, you want to get an appointment. That's what you're doing. Just say it. Right. And I think that's hard for people to just say exactly what they want sometimes. And I wonder, how much easier would it be? It's like going, and then you want to get to yes, no, or maybe as fast as possible. Right. We used to use the line when I was my first job in sales was in a boiler room. And we had a saying, there's a tell me yes or tell me no, but tell me quick, because I got to go, because I got to make another call. And it doesn't matter what you say, because there's too many people to call. And we don't think that in mortgage. We think like, oh no, this is like so hard. It's like, just yes or no. Are we meeting? Awesome. I got to go and move on. Right. Call somebody else, because somebody will meet with you. John.
Yeah. I was going to say one thing. I have a couple of realtors, and it's usually like in process stuff, but they leave a voicemail like, hey, I have a quick question. Call me back. It's important. And you're like, shit, I should probably call that guy back. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you could do that when you're prospecting, but make it seem urgent, make it seem like, I don't know, they have to call you back.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do that for setting an appointment, because you don't want to
mislead. On what you're
mislead.
doing.
People be pissed off if you're like, dude, it's not important. Like, you're trying to set an appointment with me, that would piss me off. So
True.
Anyway, John.
Yeah, I love that they said, like, don't ask how someone's doing today. And I always, not always, but if I'm in a mood and I get a call from a recruiter, which is most of the people that call me, they ask me that, and I'm respond with, I was doing great until I answered the phone. What do you want? Because I always it's fun as a person that's like supposed to be making calls to fuck with people that are calling you. You also learn a lot in how they respond. So anyway, do it. It's fun when recruiters are calling you. And then just knowing the bridge, just remembering that like you have to have a bridge for every call. So like, I work with a ton of agents in your office. I'd love to chat with you or something, something already prepared. But yeah. That's it.
So what do you say when the recruiter calls? I was doing great.
Well, when I know that they're just like a phone person calling and they're like, how are you today? I'm like, I was doing great until you called. So what do you want? And they're like,
amateur, click. Casey.
Yeah, that's one of the things that actually went through my mind as I'm reading it is, because it says like, think about what your feelings are when you get your day interrupted. We all get interrupted by the recruiting calls. And you can tell when those people aren't prepared to call you, or when they are, and they'll go on and they'll do just what this script essentially is telling you. Like, they're going to not let you speak right away, and they're going to get to that point. And I was like, oh, okay, that actually sounded good. I'm not going to be an asshole to this person. I'll actually respond nicely. But being able to do that without asking, like, hey, how are you doing? Did I catch you at the right time? That's huge. The other thing I really liked was flip it on its head, make it a competition. How many no's can you get?
Yes. Love that.
Because that's gonna change your mentality on your calls. Like if I'm trying, not like you're actively trying to get no's, obviously, but the more no's I can get, great. That's gonna make my calls easier. That's gonna change my thought process leading into the calls. And that turns it into a game.
There you go. That's awesome. How many no's did you get this week? That's what we should start at. We should add that to the list. How many no's? Christine.
I admit I did not get to this chapter this week, so I apologize to the team for that. I'm planning on reading it this weekend, but just going off of kind of what everybody has said so far, I think it's really important when I'm making phone calls to be both flexible and intentional in your conversation. I think a lot of the times when sales reps call, they have a script that they're going to get to, and a lot of times they're trying to pay so much attention to what they want to say that they stop listening to what's on the other side. And I think if you can actually listen to the person that's talking and kind of adjust your conversation around what they're saying, while at the same time sticking to what you need to get out of them, I think that allows you to have a better conversation. Instead of just like getting on the phone, planning what you're going to say, being able to do both of those at the same time, I think works a lot better. And it's easy to kind of forget that you're just also having a conversation with somebody, and kind of not stay so scripted during the call.
Do you ask, because I know you were more traditionally trained than most of us on this call. So do you have a written script that you use when you started making calls to real estate agents, that not that you read, but that you internalized? Did you write something out?
I think I did. I think I used Zenix, like, hey, I'm new and I would love to learn a little bit more like about, your time in the industry, how you've become so successful. And I learned pretty quickly. I didn't really like that so much. So I think I'll have to dig it up, but I did have a couple things written out. I would just keep bullet points and I print them really big and I put those in front of my computer. That way I didn't have a script, but I make sure that I hit every bullet point that I was doing when I was talking to somebody.
Right.
And that worked really well. And then also time blocking is huge. Again, I'll go to my Sunday planning, but I'll put all of my calls in a time block. So I'll schedule all my tasks for Tuesday, and Thursday. And then that way you're not spending time creating the task or creating the partner that you can just, cruise through a list in 2 hours and not sit there and think about who am I going to call next. You have all that planned out for the week already. So it's a lot less time to do that than, figure out who you're going to call throughout the week. It's a lot more efficient.
Well, and that speaks to the power that he focused on, which is just a concentrated hour of dials, right? Like how many dials can I make in an hour? How many no's can I get, to what Casey said? How many no's can I get in an hour? I just think that it ends up being like the whole eat the frog concept. It ends up being a lot more effective and a lot less, because he talks about it all the time in this book, by the way. He goes out of his way to talk about how fucking annoying and hate and how much no one really loves cold calling. And we act like we're supposed to love it. We're not supposed to love it. And so it's nice to hear, right? And so all he's done is he's come up with strategies and tactics to use to make it less distasteful, but it's going to always be distasteful because you're interrupting somebody. It's human. You're interrupting somebody and you hate being interrupted. So that's cool. Right on. Jan.
Yeah, I think for me, going in with confidence is everything. When you make that phone call, instead of having a passive approach, more direct to the point they know why you're calling, right? You're not the first person to call. It's the same thing that we get when we get a bunch of phone calls. It's like, get to the point. A lot of times what I've been doing now is like, if I find an agent that's connected to an agent I already know somehow, I throw out the idea, hey, I mentioned that agent asked me to reach out to them because at some point or another they have. So it gives them that sense of, okay, well, you work with someone that I know. Let me, reach out to them and see kind of what kind of feedback they can give me. Not only that, the number one thing for me is he talks about, asking with confidence, but then shut up. I think that a lot of times I ask questions and I start answering and it's like, dude, just shut the fuck up and let them talk. So just doing that, I did have, one call where I told the agent, I said, hey, I'll get straight to the point. You're good at what you do. I'm good at what I do. Yasset, for example, as the agent, told me I should call you. And he's like, okay, great. And he said, I don't want to deal with coffee. I don't do anything. Next lead I get is yours. And then from there, we built a relationship. And now he, consistently sends me leads. So I'm not saying it happens like that every time, but if you go in with confidence, I feel like half the time, you'll get the deal. It's just about having that confidence, or, how you references ask. A lot of times you don't get what you want because you don't ask. You're so concerned about them saying no or whatnot. Just ask the question.
Yeah, I think about how I react when somebody is making a sales call on me of some kind and they don't have any confidence. It's just like, dude, I got to go. Leave me alone. I can't talk to you. And so if you don't have confidence when you're asking, you're going to get the same response. So, but you think about how much different it is when somebody knows exactly what it is they're calling and what they want from you. And now you can say yes or no. But if it hits you at the right spot, if it hits you at the right moment, it's like going, all right, yeah, I'll meet you. Right. So that's huge. Jake.
A lot of everything has been covered already, like the 5-step framework, ask and shut up, like get to the point in 10 seconds or less. Like I got a lot out of this, and like just keeping these calls simple. But something that stood out to me was like curiosity is a powerful driver of behavior. And that's something that, I think it comes from asking a lot of questions and, a lot of good follow-up questions and diving a little bit deeper and being a good listener. And that's something I need to continue to do and get better at.
But yeah, all of us can get better at listening. I know I can. So good book. I'm really digging this, but I want to the next chapter is good too. Turning around reflex responses, brush offs, and objections. But I'm hearing a lot of feedback from loan officers, and not just ours, but around the country of, pricing, price objections, people, and not that it's not new, right? It's just, there's times in our industry where it's more pronounced than others. And I think we're maybe in a time in our industry where it's more pronounced than it's normally been. We're seeing more of it. And so I had a great conversation with Ryan the other day, and we talked about just masterminding around different strategies and ideas and scripts that that any of us are using more effectively to overcome this stuff. I think that there's a lot of things that people do because this doesn't affect everybody the same way. Everybody has like a different experience with this. It's not unusual if you're selling. I heard this years and years ago. Tom Ward said this is like, it's not unusual. Like when you walk into a Walmart store, if it's not like perfectly clean, you're not shocked, because Walmart's deal is low prices, right? So if it's not a perfectly clean store, if there's, if there's trash on the floor in one area, not a lot, but just like if you saw trash on the floor in a Walmart store, you wouldn't go like, that's weird. But if you were in Nordstrom's and there was a messy Nordstrom store, you'd be like, well, that's not right. Right. So because at Nordstrom's, you expect something completely different than you expect at Walmart. Right. So it's never unusual. So if we're in the value business, we all agree that we sell value, right? Like the value of the things that we provide our clients. We talk about it all the time. We're the best. Mike White keeps pointing out to that. You're the best mortgage company in America. And you have the surveys to prove it, right? And it was you're ranked number one. So the value that we provide is not price, right? But we turn it into price as soon as we get a price objection, and then you're never going to win that. So we should never be surprised. And that's what the book Crush Price Objection talks about, is like, if you're in sales, you will get price objections. It's just the thing. And if you're a value seller, you shouldn't be surprised when you get a price objection. If you're a price seller, you shouldn't be surprised if you get a value objection, like, oh yeah, we're not going to close on time. But you look at your rate. Look how low that rate is. Sorry, got to move your closing date. But man, look how much money you saved on your mortgage. And at that point, it won't matter, right? Because if you were the client, right? So we shouldn't be surprised. And this is what we have to get to, where we're like, hey, it's like, yeah, we sell value. Like we're not so getting a price objection shouldn't be something that we fear. It should be something like, well, yeah, it makes sense because we don't sell, we're not the cheapest price. We're not trying to be none of us are trying to be the cheapest price. Check your comp plans, right? So that's what we sell. And what we have to do is do a better job of making sure that we understand what that is. And I don't think this isn't a quick fix thing. This is a mindset forever thing that I can do a better job with. And so Crush Price Objections is a great book on the subject. I think if you don't have a copy, let me know so that I can make sure that I get you a copy, because I want you to spend time on it. And it's not a hard read. And there's just some great strategies and takeaways from it. There's also another book that he wrote, and I'm going to send everybody a white paper that I downloaded from this guy from the web, from his. So Paul Riley is, let's see, Tom Riley or Paul that wrote. Tom Riley wrote Crush Price Objections. His son, Paul, is the guy who's now running the company and wrote the book Value Added Selling, a go-to-market strategy. And I forwarded an email out to a few of you. He runs seminars on this, and he does them in St. Louis. The next one's coming up in June. And I'm going to be out of the country in June we're going to Italy for a couple of weeks, but I'm going to go to the next one of these. And I'm going to encourage any of you who wants to go to that with me to come, because I just think that we could gain a lot. We could really set ourselves apart in the marketplace by being the company that focuses on just value added selling, because otherwise we need to go to the price deal. We need to change everything about what we do. We need to get out of this nice space, and we just have a better.com approach to the business where it's all, we're headset jockeys. We're just quoting and hoping, right? That's what we're doing. It's like, here's your rate quote. Let me know if you want to work with me, and hang up the phone, right? Like, we're not going to go through any of this stuff. This is the quote. John, tell me the story about the lady who was putting down 20%, 720 FICO score, and was getting an FHA loan quote from Rocket Mortgage, right? Is that the story?
Yeah, I don't know if it was Rocket. I never even bothered to ask the company, but I got a referral, and she from a friend of a friend, and she was unhappy with the advice she's gotten, or just the overall explanation of the process. So she was wanting to talk to somebody else. So we talked, and she started the conversation with, yeah, I think I'm going to go FHA. I'm like, okay. And then whatever, moved on, did the whole interview. She wants to put 20% down, and she has a 788 credit score, and she's salaried and makes tons of money. To go through the whole thing. And then, so I explained to her, all the options and difference between FHA, MI, MI and FHA, MIP. And then at the end of it, I was like, so we're not going to go FHA. We can stop talking about that. And I'm sorry you didn't get good advice on what FHA was. And she was like, I literally can't, her response is I literally can't believe that somebody else talked to me about that. She's just couldn't believe it.
So now I know that when you get a price objection, that story isn't that going to make somebody go okay, then I'll use you.
Right.
Because you don't get, but I wanted John to share that story because I wanted to point out what really goes on in this industry. We all act like when we get a price objection that the person on the loan officer on the other end of that quote is doing what you do. That's the mistake.
Doing a good job of it.
That's the mistake that we make, I think, is that we think they're doing what we do, and we just think our prices, we charge too much. And a lot of times as a loan officer, you go into this mindset. It's well, the company's pricing is fucked up. That's just going to ruin your attitude. It's going to ruin your mindset. It's going to ruin your approach, and it's never going to solve the issue. Because at the end of the day, and I'm not being critical, I want you to all to make 200 basis points on your loan. At the end of the day, you are the most expensive part of the mortgage process. You just are. And so nothing else we do costs 100 to 150 basis points. Single thing, right? Nothing. So I want you to get that money. I need you to get that money, okay? Because it makes you happy. You have a better life. Christine gets to buy an $800,000 house or $900,000 house, whatever it is. And this is great. I want you to do that. That's what this is about. And so it is what we're all working for. We're all working for that opportunity to have a better lives for ourselves, and you're worth it. I promise you, you're worth it if you're delivering the value that the customer wants. So there's some things about this that I want to share, and then I'm going to send the white paper to you. But as a philosophy, value-added selling is built on a set of principles. Value, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. It is not value until the person making the decision, the investment, perceives the value. Sellers achieve higher levels of success by helping their customers achieve higher levels of success. Suppliers may sell products, but they serve people. Trust is the currency of a great relationship. When two people trust each other, price is less of an issue. It is not a good deal for both. If it's not a good deal for both parties, it is not a good deal for either party. The mindset has to be, if I lose a deal because of price, based on that, everything I just said, then it's because I didn't show them enough value and they didn't see the value in what I provide. If you don't think that, then you're always going to be fighting this. And you can't win that. You can't win that thought process, right? So I've told the story 100 times, $120,000 loan early in my career. Whatever the deal was at the company, we split the revenue. And I had to knock the revenue down to 100 basis points. So I was only going to make, the loan was only going to make 1 point. And I was at the closing, and I went to the closing, and there was $1,200 worth of revenue. I split it with the company. I had to pay the company. So I think altogether I was going to make $400 when it was all said and done. And I was sitting at the closing going, I can't believe I came to this closing and I'm going to get is $400. And I said to myself, I'm never doing this again. I'm never going to discount my deal so that I'm only going to get paid this much money. And so my mindset changed to, if I can't make 2 points because the company's getting, I'm splitting that with the company. If I'm not getting 2 points, I'm not doing it. And so, because I wanted to, so I had to show, my mindset changed that day as I going, if I don't get the deal, it's because I didn't show enough value. It's that simple. And that changed, that gave me all the power back. That now it wasn't somebody else was in control of whether or not I got the deal. It was me. I'm in control of whether or not I get the deal because I showed enough value and the customer said, I want to work with you. And so I'm going to share this white paper. If you don't have a copy, I'll send it to you in a PDF. It's really short. It's only about 8, 9 pages, 7 pages. And most of it's marketing. So it's quick read. And just some great takeaways. And so then when that next value-added selling seminar comes up, I'll make sure I forward an email to you, like, because this one was in June and it's April when he sent out the email. So he only does them like 3 or 4 times a year, but I just think it would be fun to go and learn the science behind value-added selling. There's this book, and I think I read it a long time ago when it first came out. I'm definitely going to read it again because I want to figure out ways that we can, as a company, set ourselves apart in the marketplace by showing that much value and being known as the company that does that, that delivers that value. We already get the recognition. You guys do an excellent job on, we do an excellent job on service. The other thing, the company, they surveyed a bunch of buyers. I should have shared this. That value-added salespeople sell more than a naked product. They provide three-dimensional solutions to satisfy the customer's needs. This includes the product, the company, and the salesperson. You are 25. In best sales practice research, they discovered how customers weigh each of those 3 variables. They asked buyers how much of your buying is based on the product, how much of it is based on the company, and then how much is based on the salesperson. 57% because of the product, 18% because of the company, 25% because of the salesperson. 25%. You're 25% of the reason the customer chooses to work with us. That's huge. That's great news, because if I can influence that, then I'm great, right? The company, we deliver, right? You know we deliver. You know we deliver. We never just, and if there is a mistake, we fix it, right? We take care of it. And if we have made a mistake, we write checks. If we move closing dates, and I hate writing checks. So let's do it. I hate writing checks. So I know you hate, I hate. So we always make it right is the point. What are you say, John?
I'm sorry.
Oh, anyway, that's it. I'll send the white paper out to everybody. Anybody have anything they want to add or share on this subject? And then I think what we'll do, I'll check the calendar and maybe we just share some ideas on the next few calls about the best strategies and tactics and scripting. A big part of this is, you know, when you're getting I know how much you hate getting a price objection. I hated getting price objections. Hate it, still hate it. Still hate when I hear it. Makes you sick. Like your body tenses up. It's just like we all have a physiological reaction to it. It's like, and so it's not, it sucks. And so the more we can do to demonstrate and share the value, and that's what this book talks about, is like, how can you continue to impress upon the customer the value that you provide without talking about the price of it, right? So anyway, anybody else have anything they want to share on this subject?
Just really quick, you know, you say that, you're like, we all hate getting price objections. We all hate getting shopped. But everyone on here has had a conversation with a client who's referring them to 3 or 4 other people because you're telling them stuff that no loan officer has told them, right? Because you're showing them that value. Those people will appreciate it, and those people will be the ones that refer you.
You're 100% right. The other part of this that's huge, huge, huge is how you get referred. And Ryan and I were talking about that. The way you get referred is critical. Christine, I know that this is something that you have focused a lot on with your agents. Do you want to speak to that a little bit? Do you have anything you could share? I just know you've put a lot of emphasis on this.
I would say all the agents I work with, aside from one, refer me exclusively. And we have a whole process that they use when they first start talking to a lead. They bring me in on their conversation with them about what their home search needs to look like and everything else. So we've got a whole process on how they introduce me. This is the lender that I use. There's really no other options for them that they provide. They don't provide like 3 different realtors, but I think a lot of that is just the agents I work with and their conversations about why they should use me and what we've done in the past, how many deals we've done. We honestly just have really good friendships together. And that lets them, I know, have their conversation with their clients a little bit better with why they should use me. I don't know.
It's a big part of the it's a huge, huge, massive part of the process. And it requires effort, right? Like you're building in the value for those real estate agents. So it isn't just with the client, it's the value that you've built with the real estate agent that makes them go like, I want you to work with my lender, right? Like, don't you have some people who say, and John has this, anybody else want to pipe in on this? Don't you have some people who say, if you're not going to work with Christine, I'm not going to work with you?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple of those.
That's a pretty powerful referral.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they tell them what can happen. You know, a lot of people don't know you can have a bad experience with a loan if they've never been through it. This is such a big process and so much money. A lot of people don't think it's possible for it to be screwed up. There's a lot of protections in there and everything else. So unless you share with them, this is what happens if you don't use somebody that's good, right? Or if you don't use my lender, you know, here's the things that are going on. And I think a lot of my agents do that. Like, here's why we have this process. Here's why it's important, you know, and everything else.
John, you've got a couple of agents that do this too, exclusively, because you have very little of it. You're probably, I mean, you have so little of this rear its head on you. Talk about that a little bit with the way you're getting referred. What time is it? 9:45. John, muted.
If your realtor sets up the expectation in front that our process is going to be smooth and, you know, it's not going to be stressful. You've heard about people that have had stressful processes. This is how we don't do that, and refers you the right way. You really just never get that question again. You just don't have people that don't think you're the person that they should be working with. And you don't, once you get past that, like a lot of people don't, you know, you don't talk about price either. Like, I'll explain up front why different pricing, you'll see different pricing from advertising and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really ever get questioned on pricing once you get down the road. But yeah, it's really about the realtor just setting up expectations that, like, we all work together really well, and we're gonna make this a very smooth, clean, easy process. And if you have a good connection with the borrower and their agent up front, it's you just done.
Well, and I think there's a lot of things that we can do, and because if you're prepared, right, like part of this is being better prepared for a price objection if you do get one. And there's some things that Ryan and I were starting to talk about yesterday. It would be really good to have all the fine print on the disc, you know, the disclaimers and the fine print that are on a lot of the websites. I thought I started to like go and copy them, like the one that's on mortgage. I've got a Word doc on that I started. That's on, you know how that website, is it Mortgage News Daily website or Mortgage Rate? I can't remember. Mortgage News Daily's daily rate index. Our rate index is updated each weekday afternoon. Blah, blah, blah has become the industry standard for tracking day-to-day movement in mortgage rates. Unlike surveys, our index is driven by real-time changes in actual lender rate sheets. This means we can update it at any time during the day. And lastly, it is highly objective. We are not quoting a rate, nor attempting to influence any audience for any purpose. The one only goes to capture the real movement in mortgage rates as quickly and as accurately as possible. These are not rate quotes. A note on the methodology: rate offerings vary, sometimes substantially from lender to lender. Rate quotes can also vary massively based on the details of your specific scenario. As such, the best use of any timely accurate rate index is to observe the day-to-day change. Some lenders advertise much lower rates than others. Other lenders can be out of the market at times. Our index attempts to capture the most prevalently quoted conventional conforming 30-year fixed rate for a loan scenario with at least 20% down and no major loan level price adjustments. You have many, sir, right? Like, so go ahead, Christine. I got to call you. I'm going to call you on your cell phone. I got to ask you about the email from yesterday. So I just going and getting this data and having it sitting here ready to go when somebody's like going, you know what, have you ever read the fine print on that website? Let me show you what you're looking at. When you become the person who knows more and can share more, like going, look, here's how this works. Like I went and got the Rocket Mortgage deal that says lenders calculate rates assuming assumptions, basic loan details for all rates unless otherwise noted. We assumed you're buying a primary residence, your closing costs will be paid up front. Your debt to income ratio is less than 30%. Your credit score is 720. Whose debt to income ratio is less than 30%? Hardly anybody. Your credit score is over 720 or 740. You'll have an escrow account. An interest rate of 6.25 is the cost of 2 1/8 in points. Like, so it's just making sure that when you become the person who's educating and shining a light on, look, you got to be careful because here's what these quotes are. And you do it preemptively, you can eliminate a lot of the potential for issues down the road. You still have to perform and deliver the value and be responsive, and your communication has to be spot on. You can't tell somebody you're calling them at 5 and calling at 5:30. Well, now you just created doubt, right? Like you still have to deliver. Giuseppe, you were going to say something?
Yeah, just a conversation that I had with Ryan too recently and with you. Just when I feel like I have a shopper, you know, you can usually tell by that first phone call. So during that Zoom meeting, you know, I want to be prepared for it to show him enough information, whatever it's going to take, so that hopefully in their mind, they're just like, I'm not going to shop anymore. Like I understand now, right? So that could be as simple as showing them something like Rocket, right? That, hey, this is the largest bank in the US, and look, to get this rate, they're charging 2 points. Pull up your Optimal Blue, you can always beat that rate with 2 points. You can always beat it, right? And then, all right, then they're like, okay, cool. Maybe you can pull up Chase or just different situations like that, where sometimes I'll take them right to Optimal Blue so they can see that. And then they know you can have lots of different rates with lots of different fees. He already showed me that even compared to like a big Rocket mortgage, she can get a better rate with the same fees. And like, I feel like ever since I started doing that and face-to-face Zoom meetings, or face-to-face and then Zoom meetings 3-4 years ago, like the shopping, once someone is under contract, is almost non-existent. And
yeah, right.
I agree.
Get them off that train early on.
Yeah, that was my big point. I was just gonna say, like, the sooner you get them on that Zoom meeting to review the TCA in detail and show them exactly how this works, show them the bond chart, show them Barry Habib slides, like educate them, like you'll still have shoppers that will shop you, but if you show them how this actually works, and I think Mortgage Nerd, whatever, Deborah, or whatever her name is, does a good job on Instagram if you ever follow her. It's just showing them about that break even point and showing that, hey, we're going to refinance this loan in like 15 months or 16 or 24. Like, don't worry about the rate. Let's do a lower cost loan, right? And so you just got to frame it, the analysis to their goals and show them how this works. It's not about the lowest rate all the time. It's about saving the most amount of money over time. And we know rates are going to come down. So let's do this.
Remember
instead.
that my story when I first got in this, I never knew how mortgages worked until I started doing mortgages, and I bought 3 houses, and all 3 times had horrible borrowing experiences. Mortgage, last minute, everything, more cash than I needed at closing. But I also overpaid for every one of my mortgages. No one told me there was an option to not pay points. So I paid a 1% origination fee on all my loans, along with a whole slew of closing costs. I didn't know. Nobody told me anything. And so that's a story that you can share. And like, so my goal is to make sure that my customers are educated so they know how this works and that they can make the best decision for them. So let me show you how it works. And then you can make the decision that's best for you. And I'll tell you what I would recommend, like if you were my brother. How's that sound? I mean, you're just coming up with a scripting. It's coming up with like the confidence that you deliver that message is going to be really critical. So we'll talk more about this. I'd love to share, Giuseppe. I think it would be really cool for you to walk through how you do the optimal blue sharing, because that seems like a little scary for people. And I know the first time I heard of a loan officer doing that, I was like going, wait, what? You're doing what? You're showing it to them? And I thought, actually really cool because you're so transparent. I was like, look, let me show you how this works. You can have whatever rate you want on this sheet. Here's how, and all of a sudden the customer's like, you're awesome. Thanks for showing me that. I didn't know that's how it worked. Cool. Let's do this. And like, you're the one, right? You're the one who's showing them. And then it just you build trust. And this value-added selling mindset is actually really intriguing because there's a science behind it instead of just winging it. And like, and you know, when it's raining loans, there's nothing to do here. You don't have to be good at this, but when it's not raining loans, investing in your talent when it comes to scripting and delivering value to the client and being focused on delivering value added selling is what that's about. So anyway, everybody,
one more thing. Sorry.
Yep.
If you guys think about it, if you don't follow the system and we don't have the guarantees and you don't have Mortgage Coach and Barry Habib, think about how many more prices we'd be getting.
Yeah,
so
right.
like, we have the tools and the systems in place. So it's hard out there. I bitched at Dave this week about a deal where I was like, what the fuck? Because I thought I had him in the bag and they're like, well, we really want to use you, but like this other lender's really aggressive and came back at 5.75. And I was like, what the fuck is going on out there, man? But because I told him like, no, let's do, this was like a 726 loan amount, like 80% down. So like no LLPAs. So like, I think we were at like 599 with no points the other day. So I showed him why that was it was 6.1 with the lender credit. And I was like, this is a better option because you're going to, that other payment's like $100 less a month, but I'm saving you $3,000 at closing with the lender credit. And we're going to refinance in 15 months. Like, let's go this route. And they're like, yeah, you're right. So I got the client with the higher rate because it made more sense for them, not because, so you just got to get them on that TCA early.
Like I said, the first thing that happens to you when you get that price objection is like most of us physiologically go, I did. I'm telling you, I know how it feels. Like I remember, like, it's like, God damn it. And, but great recovery. So you got the same prize. You still got the guy at the same thing you quoted him to begin with.
I didn't have to go to 5.7. I was like,
perfect.
Thank God, I'm fucking do this one for free. Like, Jesus. But, and I've had a lot of I've had people like, yeah, like we want to use you. Like, but like, there's this other lender. I'm like, so at least I'm like getting, like, they're seeing the value, but you have all these other lenders they're not selling value. They're just selling price.
That's where I think there can
and they still use us. So that's good news.
That's where I think there could be some scripting on the front end of all of these conversations that preempt the shopping, here's what happens to me a lot, right? Like like the things that you guys do, the things that you guys are willing to do, calling somebody on a freaking Sunday, calling a listing agent to help somebody get under contract. I'm sorry. You're not getting that from Rocket. You're not getting that from a bank loan officer who's like, I'm just coming in here answering the phones if somebody calls. Like, you're not getting that, right? So, and when somebody, and it's too late, right? Like, if you got somebody under contract on a Sunday and then they go like, dude, I really want to work with you, but I got this other price quote. Well, I know what I'd like to say to that asshole, right? I know what I'd like to say, like going, you dick, I can't believe you. I got you under contract. I called the listing agent on a Sunday. We beat out 6 offers. You're going to shop me now. I know you'd like to say that. You can't say that. So it's preempt. You have to preempt that. You have to preempt that move. And that's some scripting that we can mastermind on. And that was Ryan's idea, is like going, you're right.
Yeah.
How do we preempt that from happening?
Yeah, let's all come together with a really good script. That'd be awesome.
Exactly. So, because it's still going to happen. And I even though you did all those things, it's almost like making sure that the customer knows right up front, here's the value I deliver. Because like, we have a shit ton of value, and I don't know that we're doing a great job of making sure that we're sharing what all the value is. Too often we become our own little worst enemies because we're just order taking. And we don't follow the process because it's going really smooth and they seem really happy. And then they shop you and you're like, what the fuck? I thought this was going great. So there you go.
Just add also that just be careful feeling busy and sending out a pre-approval, taking a shortcut without doing a TCA review or a Zoom meeting. It feels like you're taking a shortcut, but that's the meeting where you show the value, right? That's not the 10-minute phone call up front usually.
100%.
So if you don't do that, you're opening yourself up to losing the deal later. Like, you saved 20 minutes now or 30 minutes now, but there's a way bigger chance you're gonna lose the deal.
Think about what you've done. You've become a headset jockey. You demonstrated no value, and you just was like, oh, cool, this is going really good. These guys are awesome. Boom, boom, boom. Here's your quote. Here's your pre-approval. Rock on. And then they're like, shop you. Well, it's like, well, you didn't give them any value. So getting shopped in that situation shouldn't surprise you at all.
I have a slide on my sit that I stole from Giuseppe's idea with the showing them OB and next to Rocket Mortgage. It's just a slide that I have in my sit presentation. And then I also have another slide where I show them like the advertised rate next to a low cost rate, next to a 2-1 buy down, next to a refi. And I just walk them through that really clearly. And then I do the break even point, and we talk about it. And I actually talked someone out of, getting points on their mortgage. They wanted points at the beginning, but then they were like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So.
Almost never makes sense. I mean, we were in a situation where we had to charge them for a while and you'd have to change your scripting, but it almost never makes, it almost never makes sense to spend the money on the points. A point saving a quarter is a 4-year break even. Like, fuck, that's a lot of shit that can happen in the next 4 years. And that's just to get your money back. You haven't made any yet. Like, all you did was trade a point today for 1/48 of that money over the next 48 payments. It's stupid. Like, don't do this. Let me show you why you want to take a higher rate and lower cost.
It's a different market right now, though.
Sure. Yeah. The point can buy you a lot right now. I got it.
6% was like 1.25 for a client, and par was 7. So that's different.
And you show the same, but you do the same math.
7 right now, you're going to risk just having them hang up on you. Like, you need to have the conversation.
Of course.
Advertised rate, low cost rate, right?
But it's the same math, Giuseppe, right? It's to your point is like going, now let me show you why it's going to make so much sense for you to pay these points. Let me show you how much money we're going to save and how fast you're going to get your money back.
Yeah.
If you're the one shining the light on it, you're like, dude, you educated me. People want to work with teachers, right? That you educated me. I know I'm saving money. Let's move on. So anyway, this went longer than I thought. This was a great call. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your Friday, and we'll see you on the Friday conference call.